So without further ado, because I think we want to have enough time for the discussion, let me hand over to Dr. Tush, who is the chairperson of the Stop Cruelty to Children, Stop Child Cruelty campaign in Sri Lanka. Over to you.
Thank you, Miranda. Iboan, and good morning to all. I'm Tush Wickramanayake. I'm a physician, mother of two, and I'm the chairperson of Stop Child Cruelty Trust. My deepest appreciation to UNICEF for giving me this honor to represent all CSOs and NGOs and providing a platform where we can discuss the national child protection crisis in Sri Lanka openly and frankly. It has been quite revealing to listen to the previous speakers, and thank you, Hemamal, for the exhaustive explanation of the legal proceedings and the Supreme Court judgment, which I will not touch anymore. But it's imperative that we appreciate that despite the work that has gone on for 30 years, government after government, authority after authority, that we cannot be proud of the situation that we are in at the moment. We simply cannot. 30 years after we signed the UNCRC, we were issued with a red alert in 2018 by the Committee of the Rights of the Child on 5 categories considered as being critical and urgent to be addressed. One of them, number 1, priority was ending corporal punishment in Sri Lanka. Furthermore, the statistics, NCPA statistics shows that cruelty to children cases of physical punishment have increased, trebled from 2010 to 2019. And our very own minister, Professor G.L. Peiris, confirmed in Parliament in October 2020 that Sri Lanka during the first half of 2020 had the most astounding number of cases reported to NCPA, and that he was unhappy with the speed in which they were resolved. So we have issues, people. We really do have to admit that government commitment cannot be restricted to just paper or policies. So let's make this session not just about tapping ourselves on the back, but also being frank so that we can find some simple solutions, doable solutions during this forum. And perhaps I would like to earnestly request UNICEF to have another session, timely session, so that we could monitor the progress and that we are all committed to it and we are held accountable to what we discuss later on. And on that basis, I would really like to ask Miranda also, I have 15 minutes to please allow me at least another 3 or 5 minutes more, because at the end of my session, I'm going to tell the viewers here how the international community achieved it and why can't we? So it's important that I get that few minutes, please. So starting off, I actually came prepared today, having spoken to so many other CSOs and citizens who are concerned equally as me. I am also a survivor of violence, just like Miranda, as a child as well as an adult. And most advocates come in to the forefront because of the adversity that they experienced in their lives. And I came in because of my own daughter having experienced corporal punishment and mental abuse in an international school here. So, you know, it's the passion that drives us. And one of the things, so I have 5 things to try and bring out today to the table with some solutions. And the very first thing and the most common thing that has been repeated by every CSO and every citizen is the strained relationships that we have with the government authorities. Unfortunately, even though the government says, let's work together, and I applaud Preetika, who said, let's work together. Yes, it's wonderful that we say, let's work together, but we often find that even though heads are nodded and agreements are made at a table, that we don't get a response to a complaint that we make. We don't get a response to a letter that we make. We don't get to see the relevant ministers or the authorities afterwards. There is no follow-up. And then, there's also a huge kind of derogatory feeling towards CSOs and NGOs with this, very bad feeling that we are NGOs, we are non-governmental organizations, that we are working for a foreign agenda, for foreign money. But nothing is further than the truth, because we are all advocating and working, and we want to work together so that this is for our children, for the children that experience issues in our country. On the 7th of April, on World Health Day, WHO reiterated that there is such a discrepancy of providing health to the nations across the world, and that it was unfair, yet it is preventable. Health of a nation is not just prevention of disease. Health of a nation is to ensure that people are physically, mentally, spiritually, and socially healthy. And when corporal punishment happens to a child, all of those systems are broken. All of those chains are broken. And it is imperative that we take the advice of international organizations such as WHO as the preventive mechanism. Number one, they recommended on the 7th of April was that governments should work closely with the people, with civil societies and NGOs. And any credible civil society NGOs' responsibility is to work as a bridge from the people to the government. It is our responsibility to take the problems to the government, discuss, find solutions long-term, and deliver it to the people. Sometimes we have criticisms, but that does not mean that those relations should be strained, because leadership is all about humility and accepting those criticisms so that we can work together. So I would like to request earnestly from Preetika that NCPA actually takes us on board to the discussion tables as agreed, and give us the opportunity to be stakeholders for our children. Number two is the implementation. We all know that there are wonderful policies of years long, and it's no good leaving them in paper, stuck in some file, or be able to come out at forums like this and say, yes, we've got X, Y, Z, but if it's not being implemented. So there are three things that need to be implemented to end corporal punishment in this country. We heard over and over again about this circular. By the way, this circular is not available anywhere else, not even on any government, not even on the Ministry of Education website, but please go on to www.stopchildcruelty.com on the resources page, and you will find everything you require, including the 2016 circular. So the circular is there. Then there was an NCPA study done in 2017. That too is available on our website, giving 18 recommendations. And the main stakeholder of that was the NCPA. It was done by NCPA, and those recommendations should have been enacted by the NCPA, but we can't see any palpable changes that have happened because as a result of that. So those are things that really need to be done. And in terms of the circular, it has been requested of me to please mention that the circular is only valid for government schools and government approved private schools. We have a private schools department, a private separate department in the Ministry of Education, but the Pirivens, the special faith schools, or the international schools do not come under the regulations of the Ministry of Education. So our children, if they have an issue in school, the Ministry of Education does not look after our children. The circular is not valid to our children, so that these education institutions can get away with nothing short of murder towards our children. and also our rights of these children. As citizens who go to private institutions, we are not covered. Our children are not covered by our Human Rights Commission as rights holders. So that is a tragedy. That is something that our government has done in the implementation of the Education Act so many years ago, falsely implemented it without realizing that there will be an era where international education will be part and parcel of the mainstream education in our country. So it's really important that the Ministry of Education extends this circular to all education institutions. If they can implement the Suraksha security plan for all children. It's a private thing, but it is promoted by the government. If they can do that for all students, including the students of the international schools, I do not see why the circular cannot be extended to our children too. Number 3, the attitudinal changes that are required. Now that has been reinforced by the Supreme Court judgment, where they have reiterated, as Dr. Hemamal said, about our archaic myths and things that we accept in society as, oh, we were hit and we are doing fine attitude, and the Kirihoda story, which I will come later on. And to change those attitudes, they must come from grassroots levels. It's no point in us waiting till a teacher is appointed, till a teacher has done something wrong in order to tell them, hello, there is a circular here, you can't hit, you will be taken to court, or, let's get you let's do a training program and do some project. Child protection, for that matter, any humanitarian advancement is not a project. It needs to be a sustained policy-backed program, that a sustainable program. So the training must come even before a teacher is given the appointment. And we, the Stop Child Cruelty Trust, has done training for almost about 800 teachers now. The first we did with Vidyapita in Maharagama in 2019. And it was quite disheartening, quite shocking, in fact, to know that they did not know much about child development, the crucial stages of child development in the preschool age group. They did not know about the positive child discipline mechanisms that Preetika explained. They did not know. So if anyone is interested, please go back to our website, and there is a booklet on happier and safer education, very well illustrated, common childhood misbehaviors that we found in the 2017 NCPA study, and methods that we have introduced, international recognized methods. So if any one of you wants that, you can download it, and please share it amongst anyone you think feel free to do that. So it's important that the authorities do the training at grassroots levels from the Vidyapitas, ensure that they have some form of child psychology training, to ensure that this training is updated every 2 years as they do in the international, in overseas. No teacher, no person who comes in contact with a child can be released of this responsibility of upgrading on child psychology training. And it's important also that we have been pressing with larger INGOs. We have been pressing with the Ministry of Education with our module. Ours is not quite a module that we have been doing the training with. It's a sessionary program, but we are following the guidelines of SAVE and World Vision, etc. So it's important if the INGOs can come forward and help us to formulate a module and work with us with the Ministry of Education, where this module is compulsory for all teachers to undergo. We are happy to give our resources, our expertise free of charge. So please take that on board, UNICEF, if you can. Lastly, the law reforms. So my 4th point here is about the law reforms, which the Supreme Court has explained and has confirmed. And before going to the Supreme Court judgment, there are so many things that we can do on ground level, which are very simple things to expedite matters. We don't need to wait for court decisions, which comes only once a year. We have a conviction of a child of corporal punishment, maybe once a year. If ever there is a less significant injury incident where there is no physical injury, even if you go to court, and these are heard, on average 10 years down the line, even if you go to court, they get suspended jail term, and you're out free. Nobody ever gets any kind of rehabilitation. They don't get any training. The teachers get punishment transfers, which is quite derogatory, because it makes matters worse, because they are full of anger and animosity that they tend to abuse even more. So this isn't working. So if we keep on saying that we have this policy, we have done this, we have child protection committees, it cannot be that whatever the system that we are working is working fine. It's because we can't see any improvement when the government authority says that our children are sexually abused every 2 hours. We can't be doing this right when the international global agency says that Sri Lanka is in the abysmal 10% of countries least safe against violence on our children. So we need to change tactics. We need to understand where we went wrong and find solutions, rather than glorifying something that we are advocating on paper. So simple things that I could recommend, therefore, is that I would earnestly request that NCPA work more closely with the Attorney General's Department. Please identify the people that you need to know in the CH section, the children's section, which handles all the cases on behalf of the NCPA. Know who is actually heading it, know the solicitors over there, and have the communication going, because we all know that almost 30,000 cases are backlogged of child abuse in the Attorney General's Department. And the cases that are now being heard are only the ones that have come up in 2007 to 18. And I believe they're now coming up to 2012. We are now in 2021. NCPA, the foremost and the most authoritative body in our country with the most power, more than the ordinary police, more than any other authority, more than a secretary to a ministry, you have the power, use it. And make sure that you have that connection going with Attorney General's Department. Insist that these cases are brought forward. And by insisting, you can also take on the responsibility and accountability by having case workers for the cases that you send your NCPA officers to court. Please do not send officers who do not know about the case, because all it does is that it postpones the case. There are officers who come from the NCPA representing a case. They have absolutely no idea. They nod their head and say, "Mama danne, I don't actually know about it. I will make inquiry." So then the judge says, "Okay, we'll meet again in 3 months' time." That's not how expediting cases should be. That's not what accountability should be. So these are simple measures that an authority such as yourselves can do in order to expedite and give us relief. These children are adults, that has been mentioned already. And they are in an open fire, burning away from day to day. Their families are burning away. The so-called abusers are burning away. So we need to find solutions. We cannot glorify what has gone wrong. And finally, and this is where I would need a tiny bit of time, Miranda, please, because I did a lot of international research over the last week, and it is only a couple of days ago that I was able to speak to the Nepal group that prohibited corporal punishment. So here goes. So we signed as a country that love our children, our patriarchal, matriarchal country, that we protect our children, which a very rich 2000 odd culture of ours, with a multi-ethnic, multi-religious society that promotes, or supposed to promote, avihimsa, or non-violence. We signed it as a first country in 1991 and ratified it. There were 3 countries remaining to sign the UNCRC. That was Sudan, USA, and it was South Sudan, USA, and Somalia. And South Sudan and Somalia signed and the UNCRC in 2015 and ratified it, but USA still hasn't ratified it. But countries that signed it after us, countries that took on this mantle, took on the torch to protect children, have now prohibited this in their countries. It's not 100% success, but there is palpable changes and success rates. So let me come to that. Sudan, who signed it in 2015, actually implemented prohibition in 2011. And this is a country that was strive with violence. And they have found that the violence has decreased. South Africa, which was rich of apartheid, racism, color issues, this country changed it, prohibited in 2018, and so did Nepal, I think 2015, sorry. And Nepal, our nearest neighbor, did it in 2018, and Scotland did it in 2020, although Korea has now beaten everyone else again as the latest country. Now, in all these countries.
2 minutes, Dr. Tush, so that we can have time for the rich discussion.
Absolutely. So all these countries that are prohibited have shown that the youth violence and violence in society has decreased. And how did they do that? Number one is that they had constitutional changes. They brought in a separate section. When I spoke to Nepal, they had a separate section for children in the constitution. And they made a rule that the Children's Act must be implemented in 3 years, not 5. 2, coalition of CSO. So if anybody is listening, please get in touch with us on info@stopchildcruelty.com if you want to work together with us from today onwards on our major campaign, which one of the questions has come, and I'm glad that they brought that up. It has to be a major public campaign. So join us on the Handi Noga Hadana Hudda Spare the Rod campaign, which we will kick off as of today. And there's another question. The 4th way that they did, the heralding of the prohibition of corporal punishment was done in many African nations by banning the sale and production of canes. There's a question that has come up. So we will be starting to endorse that as with the campaign today. And child protection, lastly, is not dependent on any single individual, any single organization, or any single government institution. It is a collective social responsibility. And I warmly welcome you to join Stop Child Cruelty or any other organization that you feel is credible and is able for you to work with and support to ban corporal punishment in our lifetime. Thank you.